Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global Nimble community. My name is John Ferrara, and I want to first thank you for taking some moments out of your day to join us for a conversation about growth. I think that we're on this planet to grow, and I think we do that best by helping other people grow, which is why I'm excited to have our guest, Ivana Taylor, today to inspire and educate us about marketing strategies in 2020. Ivana, say hello to the audience.
Hello, audience. I am so excited, especially when I heard that there were folks from all over the world who share our commitment.
So let's go to your bio so we can talk about you, because it's all about you right now today, because you are on the Nimble soapbox.
I am on the Nimble soapbox, and I'm soapboxing today.
What I love to do is to listen out there in the business river for people that inspire and educate me. And Yvonne has been doing that for almost 10 years now. And besides inspiring and educating me, she's a dear friend. We connect beyond the business aspect. And I think that you need to do that as a human being, is to connect beyond the business lobby. And we virtually have gone into each other's homes and had conversations about the 5 F's of life: family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship. And I've gotten to know her, and I think that she's one of the experts out there. And that's why we asked her to come and share with you. Her website, DIYmarketers.com, is a source of information for small businesses to not only learn marketing strategies, but really how to grow their business. Because I think we're all overwhelmed, and I don't care how much experience that you do have. And so be sure to check out her website, go to her Bizapalooza chat that she runs on Mondays and Thursdays. It's a great community to connect in, to learn from. And let's learn a little bit about me. For those that don't know me, I helped pioneer contact management and CRM before Outlook and Salesforce existed with a company called Goldmine. I did it because I struggled to build relationships at scale. And it turned out that millions of other people did as well. It turned out to be a goldmine for me, which enabled me to spend 10 years raising 3 kids, which was a precious blessing. And I got back in the business because I'm not done. I think that we're going through a renaissance in relationships, and we all need to have a personal CRM, let alone a good company CRM. And that's what I do. So let's go to the agenda.
All right. So, I know we're going to talk about this agenda, but I really just want to jump in here and say a few things about John from my perspective. I mean, John, you practice what you preach daily. And it was when you reached out to me that we started building the relationship, and you shared Nimble with me. And I really, really want to thank you for your persistence and your commitment to so many small business owners. So appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. And I just want to interject that we all grow from questions. So please, please, please ask questions in the background. We will answer them during the presentation and compile them. And for those that are asking, everyone who registered for the webinar will get an email with the recording and the deck.
Excellent. Excellent. So our 2 poll questions, which were really enlightening to me. So thank you all for sharing so openly about what your issues around marketing are. I thought that was really, really insightful. And I would say that what we're going to do today is cover a lot of those issues. First and foremost, we're going to cover what the only 3 marketing strategies are for small business. We're going to help you choose the most cost-effective marketing strategy for your business. And, when I tell people what I do and we talk about low-cost marketing advice, I want to get a little clearer on that and say that we're talking about lowest total cost marketing advice. So we'll say more about that later. We're also going to talk about when to choose a specific marketing strategy. I got some really easy tips for that. And how to identify the best tactics that support your marketing strategy. And finally, how you can effectively combine different marketing strategies. So let us just jump right into it. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about why marketing is so frustrating. I mean, every business owner I've met has been frustrated by some aspect of marketing. right? So all this to say that I think a lot of small business owners like marketing about as much as they do a root canal. So, John, what's been your experience? And you've had so much and you've built a system around it. What do you think frustrates folks about marketing so much?
I think they just don't know where to start. And I think that they do things, they don't see it has effects, and they get frustrated. And I could tell you in my earliest days of Goldmine, I tried advertising and it just didn't work. And it's only when I learned that it's more powerful when other people talk about you than when you talk about you, and started to tell stories and get help and get other people to help me tell those stories at scale, that I succeeded in marketing. And so I think that especially you go and look at the newspaper stands, there are no magazines anymore. I mean, advertising in the traditional sense is is some ways ineffective, but I'll bet that there are ways that you can still advertise that are effective, and that's why I'm here to learn from you.
Oh, well, thank you. So, we had the poll question, and a lot of folks said that their biggest frustration with marketing is not knowing where to put your time and your money. Like, where are you going to put your valuable resources? And of course, the other one was, I like to liken it to a slot machine. Sometimes when you don't know where to put your time and money and you are trying a bunch of different things, it feels like a gamble, like a slot machine, right? You give it money, it gives you absolutely nothing. And then what's really frustrating, at least I'm going to be a little self-revealing here, is when I look across and somebody else has just hit the jackpot and I'm like, what were they doing that I wasn't doing? So I'm going to share a little bit about why I think folks are frustrated and why I think they're confused. I'm going to tell you a story. So from time to time, I'm in the business of marketing strategies, and I just go into Google and I type in marketing strategies. And this is what I saw. 10 marketing strategies, 5 marketing strategies, 16 marketing strategies. I mean, seriously, this is just, I was like, I was confused. I was confused. And so I thought to myself, it's no wonder that everyone is completely confused. I have a joke. I have a marketing joke. How many marketers does it take to confuse small business owners? Anybody have a guess? All of them. All of them. All of us have been complicit in confusing people. Now, I don't think anyone's done it on purpose. What I think is happening here is that marketing experts and platforms are so eager to help small business owners that we tend to just skip over some of the basics so we can get on to the nitty gritty and get you to fill that funnel. So we make the assumption that you know some of the things that we know. So based on the thousands of folks I've talked to, they know that marketing strategies exist. And they know that there are a lot of them. What they don't know, this is what they don't know. They don't know that marketing strategies are actually choices and not actions. And I can see that they don't know because only 20 people on any given month actually search on the phrase how to choose a marketing strategy. So let's go back to this hodgepodge of marketing strategy snippets. So as I started saying, I typed this into Google one day and I got all these articles and I thought to myself, I'm just going to click on every single one of these and I'm going to start tabulating them. Well, as I went through each of these individual articles, what I realized was it was a hodgepodge. There weren't just marketing strategies, there were ideas, there were tactics, there were all kinds of things in there that I wouldn't exactly classify as a marketing strategy. So what I found out is after I did all my tabulation and made a big old mess on my table, my whole room was taken up with sticky notes. I created this little graphic that you'll get. And these are the 3 marketing strategies that I discovered. It fell into only 3. And so no matter what you might come across, what new quote unquote strategy you might run into, you're going to find that at some point it will fall into one of these three categories. Just so we're like on the same page, I thought it would be a good idea to review the difference between a strategy and a tactic. So let's say, John, when I want to come and see you in Santa Monica, I could fly, I could drive, or I could walk. Each one is an entirely valid strategy of getting from Cleveland to Santa Monica. Now, the one I choose will depend on my talents, my preferences, and my resources, especially time and money. And that's going to become important as we move on. So that's what a strategy is. It's the how I intend to get to my destination. How do you want to reach and attract and convert these customers? You can buy advertising, you can create content, or you can reach out to them directly. But wait, we should consider a few other things. Like anything else, as I said, it's a function of time, it's a function of money. Remember, I mentioned this whole lowest total cost, just because doing it yourself isn't always your lowest cost strategy. And of course, your preferences, what you're good at, and of course, where your best customers come from. Do they come online or offline, right? So let's review that. This is going to be a little, this writing might be a little too small for you. So let's talk about paid advertising. A lot of people run away from paid advertising because, again, they assume that they're going to throw money at something. Now, done right, it could be a really, really effective strategy. It's a great strategy if you do have more money than time, you have no time or desire to sell, and or you're in a very, very specific niche. One example I like to give are folks that are, well, I'll give you a real example. I have a friend who runs a plastics manufacturing company. It's about a $15 million business. He does, well, I don't want to say he doesn't have a sales department. He doesn't have a marketing department. What he does is online advertising. He's in a specific niche and he has built his business that way. He's allowed advertising to do his top of the funnel work while he invests his time in servicing his customers. Okay, so don't throw away paid advertising just because it means money out of your pocket. Done right, it could be a really great strategy. Then, of course, there's content marketing. Now, content marketing is going to require a lot more time than money. It's also, you have to be prepared to wait and see the results and make lots of tweaking. I always say the content marketing is a farming strategy. You plant seeds, you water them, and they grow, and ultimately you will get to harvest them. And of course, you have to love creating content. And content isn't just written content. It could be video, it could be all kinds of things, but you have to enjoy doing that type of work. Then, of course, there's direct marketing. Okay, so this is whether you're doing a face-to-face sale or whether you are sending direct mail, anything that's a direct person-to-person connection. That's a great strategy if you've got time and money, right? You like engaging with people and you've got a high involvement product. So maybe a product that is either costs a lot of money or requires a lot of understanding of technology. Anything that requires a lot of face-to-face interaction is going to be more of a direct marketing strategy. So let me kind of give you an example. Say you wanted to generate sales like yesterday, right? You might focus on content marketing as a strategy. I mean, content marketing is typically a long game and it takes time and effort. But again, you have to love and creating that. There's also direct marketing or paid advertising. Now, one strategy gets short shrift, that's the paid advertising. But another one would be the direct marketing. So I thought I would tell you about a client that I have. He's an elder law attorney here in Cleveland. And he actually does a combination of the sale is actually a direct face-to-face sale, but he needs to fill the top of his funnel and he is busy all day seeing clients, right? So what he does is he does paid advertising. Then those people are directed into a seminar which is now content marketing. And then finally, it turns into a direct selling process where they make an appointment and then they come and see him, and then the personal relationship is built. So you could see that you could use a little bit of each one, but you've got to be really, really focused on where your sale happens. So what I've done is created this little marketing strategy quiz, and there's going to be a link for that you'll get, and you can try that out. But that will help you choose a marketing strategy. Just answer a few simple questions and put in your email, and you will get your results. Now let's talk about tactics. So we talked about strategies being the how you're going to get there. Are you going to walk? Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive, right? And choosing that strategy depends on your preferences, your talents, and what kind of resources you have. But the tactics, those I like to think of as your turn-by-turn instructions. That's what's going to get you. Those are the little things that are going to get you there. So let's go back to our 3 core strategies and some of the most popular online and offline tactics. So, I mean, can I just say these aren't cast in stone by any stretch, and I'm sure I haven't covered all the online or offline tactics, but I have tried to cover the most popular ones. And if you really, really think about it, this is where it gets really powerful. I don't know about you guys, but when I was putting this together, the big epiphany was, A, it's no wonder that people are confused. There's too much to choose from. B, the tactics that you choose and how you implement those tactics have to be in alignment with the strategy that you've chosen, right? So think of these marketing strategies as like filters or lenses or like frameworks. So based on the strategy that you choose, how you implement each tactic is going to make a big difference. I mean, if we talk about that elder law attorney, right? He's using paid advertising not to make the sale, but to drive people to his content, right? Then he's using his content. Now we send emails to remind people to come to their seminar. We send text messages to remind them to come to the seminar. You know, these things that we do are direct marketing strategies, but they're meant to support the content, which ultimately goes back to having them make that appointment. So he's really, really clear where the sale happens, which is the interest that's built in the content, and then the sale happens when they come and see him as an appointment. So then we can selectively choose what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. Okay? So that's, we can have that same example. For example, I use a content marketing strategy that's the push. I push out content. Now, I could use email to remind people to go visit the content, right? But another part of my sale is all about direct marketing and direct relationships. And so the other area of confusion that people come into, as you could imagine, is choosing tools. You have to know what strategy you're practicing so that you can choose the appropriate tool, because there are hundreds and hundreds of tools for every little thing that you would want to do. So I think the platform's job is to show you what the platform is capable of, but you can't really appreciate that until you're clear about where your sale happens. How do people find out about you? Do they find out about you online or offline? How do they convert into maybe having a meeting with you? And then finally, how you keep building that relationship. So what I thought would be really fun, I think before I get to this next section, John, questions, comments? Is there anything that I should chat about?
Well, I think that there's a few questions that we've gotten. One of them was, how would I know whether my ideal client is online or offline?
Oh, And please don't take this as a flip response because it's not meant that way. It really isn't. Where does the check come from? Where does the money come from? Right? Where is the decision? You have to kind of break that up. Does that make any sense, John? So for example, my customers find out about me online. They've either read content or we've interacted on social media. And so ultimately, then I might meet them face to face and then the sale happens. So you kind of need to break that up. What are your thoughts?
Well, I actually answered that in the background, and I shared with them that um, every business person should analyze the people that they've already sold to, especially their ideal customer, the ones that have stayed the longest and bought the most and been the least trouble, and then build profiles for them. And through those profiles, they'll understand the types of companies, the persona and role of the person, and where the conversation started, and how you maintained it. And all of those will give you clues into where you should be investing your time in building your brand and sharing content and engaging in order to attract and retain ideal customers.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you start with what you have, but I bet there are people out there who are maybe thinking, well, maybe I'm a startup, right? And I don't really have a lot of customers right now. You know, in that case, chances are, at least I can tell you when I started meeting people. I started locally. And then I started engaging on social media. Well, of course, there wasn't LinkedIn, there was nothing when I started. So everything started face to face. But these days you're engaging on social media. And boy, what a great way to build relationships, John. You and I have been friends forever and ever, and we only met face to face this past year.
For sure. And could you go back to the three pillars of
Oh, yes, my three pillars.
process of marketing? And so I was looking through this, and I don't advertise. We do content. And one of the questions from Mordecai was, where do we find a writer for emails and websites? So
Ooh,
if you have a tip on finding good writers, I think that we all suffer from that, right? Great copy. I'll tell you, I hired a firm back in the day because we used to do a lot of direct mail and advertising, and great copy sings. I mean, it's just so powerful, and we all get caught up in our own jargon. And so, in regards to content, do you have any tips on finding writers if you aren't a writer for your blog, for the words on your website, and for the emails you send out?
well, the first thing I'm going to say is don't underestimate how important your knowledge is before you hire any kind of writer. There are things you need to know about your business, such as who your ideal customer is. You need to know, as we say from the old country, you need to know how your customer breathes. You need to know what matters to them. You need to know what drives them. You need to know what frustrations they have. No writer can answer those questions for you. So the more prepared you are with what type, who your ideal customer is, and the more prepared you are with your sales process and what type of writing you need. Oh my goodness, these days, John, there's like every single writing is a different kind of skill. There are folks that do blog writing, that's a talent, versus social media posts, that's a talent. We can get into that, right? Facebook versus Twitter versus whatever. Every single channel has a talent. And this was the epiphany, John, that I
Yeah.
realized that people were so unhappy. Well, you can't be happy if A, you don't know some basics about your own business and what you want to communicate and how you want to communicate it. And B, is your email writing going to support a direct marketing strategy, or are you going to use email for content, or is email going to be a follow-up to your advertising? Are you going to nurture people who have clicked on
Well,
some advertising, right?
I think ultimately you have to deal with all of that. But one of the things I would say in regards to content, I'm a math computer science major. I didn't do that well in English. And so I've had to work on my writing skills, but I found that the easiest way for me to build a content strategy for myself or even my business is to identify influencers of my core prospects in and around the areas of promise of my products and services and begin to share that content. So that's one of the reasons I share your content from DIY marketers. And I basically attribute your name and I hashtag it, pound sales, pound marketing, whatever, appropriately. And I do that every morning that I get up and I drink my coffee and I read information online because I want to learn and grow. And the things that inspire me, I basically share it. I buffer it to my account and my team members' account and my corporate Nimble account. And what that turns out to be is fishing lures that drop into the social rivers that basically start connections and conversations. So even if you're not a writer and you can't afford to hire a writer, you basically have forgotten more about your products and services than your customers will ever know in your life. Give your knowledge away. And if you don't have the ability to write that down, then just share other people's knowledge. And that's a great content strategy as well. But the thing that I do want to cover, and the reason I asked you to bring this back up, is out of these things at Nimble, we don't advertise. I mean, we're experimenting with it, but traditionally we don't. Content we do mainly through identifying other people that inspire us, influencers in around in our category, sales, marketing, social, etc. And we share their content. So there's two things or a few things that we do at Nimble that I don't see here. And I wondered if you thought it was it had a place in our audience's business, which is specifically influencer marketing and guerrilla PR. In other words, you think about PR traditionally, you think about a press release and magazines where that doesn't exist as much anymore. But there are writers out there that write in blogs and publications, etc. And if you can get them to tell your stories for you, that's very powerful. So where does influencer marketing and PR fall in this, or is that another pillar?
Oh, no, I would absolutely put influencer marketing, because what do influencers do? They create content, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So that's why that
So
fits
that'd be
in
part
there.
of your
And
content strategy.
PR might have just been an offshoot, right? I don't even know where I would put that exactly. I might even put PR as more like content, or I could even see, here we go, right? It, everything is up for definition. It just depends
Well,
on how you use it, right?
I
I
think
actually,
that
John,
social has blurred the lines of PR and that many PR people became social content people, and
exactly.
ultimately it really is all one big bag: influencer, PR, social,
But you see,
etc.
John,
So ultimately it is, but I think that I'd add a tactic of PR in there so that there's an influencer marketing to just be specific about it, because I do think it's more powerful when other people talk about you than when you talk about you. And
absolutely.
I think it has to be defined, because otherwise it might get glossed over by people who don't quite understand either, what is influencer marketing, what is PR, what is social, and how to apply it in their stuff.
And I do influencer marketing, so I think it's pretty funny that I left it off, right?
That's okay.
But
We had
John,
another. Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say, I just want to say one thing, and that is that, see, I view Nimble as just being an absolute rock star in the direct marketing strategy because of how you build relationships, all of those things, the way you engage on social, I view as a direct marketing strategy.
Interesting.
There you go.
I find it in some respects indirect. So the way that we basically have built the Nimble brand is, like I said, we swim in the river of where our constituency learn information. And that was actually one of the questions. Where do I find whether my customers are online or offline? And I think that if you go online and you go into places that where people gather to have conversations in and around the areas of your products and services. And so my people would be people in sales and marketing who are engaging in social and having conversations about how to grow. If you go there and you find people that stand out and resonate, and you basically share their content, that not only starts conversations with people looking to be better at those things like sales and marketing, but also the audience of the influencer, but more specifically the influencer themselves. And they'll naturally reach out to you to have a conversation, at the very least to thank you, which gives you an opportunity to engage with them in a one-to-one conversation, which you kind of reflect as direct marketing. But it really starts from a content strategy, which starts a conversation that ends up turning the conversation switches from Twitter to email to a go to webinar face to face and then meeting them in person. Because I think the more digital we get, the more human we need to be, and you need to take your online connections into face to face.
Absolutely. And I think, lest you guys feel like your brains are swimming right now with John and I tossing these words around, the only thing I would want you to get, and this is just such a great example of this, is, as I said right off the bat, none of this is cast in stone. It's what matters is that you understand which strategy you're choosing, and that you understand which tactics you're using to support that strategy and the way you're going to do it, right? It's in the eye of the beholder. As you can see, I perceive Nimble as being a direct marketing strategy, and John sees it as more indirect and content focused. None of that matters. What matters is that you, as the owner, the driver of your marketing strategy, is clear. That's what matters. So if
yeah, and in regards to that, I think that Nimble is a direct tool, right? Because it is a people to people tool. But
correct.
the means and methods that we start those conversations start with a softer side through social and influencer and guerrilla PR, which then drives the face to face. And
well, you're practicing what you preach, is what you're doing, right? So you're using content, these things that you're doing. This is again how my filter works. These things that you're doing are all supporting this idea of this is what our brand stands for, and this is how we practice generating.
So one of the questions that we have is, how do we deal with anti-spam legislation in regards to emails?
Oh, well, oh boy, that's such a great question, because there was a time when the name of the game was building a ginormous email list, right? Because it was like this numbers game. I'm going to say that as far as the other influencers I've talked to and what other folks are doing and being in touch with these email marketing platforms, I would say big email lists, when I say they're out, I'd say having that be your goal is not the best goal. The goal is to, as John likes to say all the time, your goal is to be helping people. So your goal is to collect emails of people who want to be on your list, who want to receive certain types of information from you, and to be rigorous and judicious. And if people have not been engaging with your emails, if they haven't been opening them, if those emails are not doing what you want them to do, then clean that list up. So anti-spam is your friend. GDPR is your friend. And I'm going to tell you, Michaela and I talked about this a little while ago. I had a list of 8,000 people or something at some point, and I realized that I was not emailing. Email is just not a big strategy for me. When I get somebody's email, it's because I want to give them something, right? That's they ask for something, I want to give it to them. That's the purpose of my collecting anyone's email. My list is now down, and you'll see this in my Nimble, to I've got I don't know, like maybe 200 I don't know, 200 some people overall. I've got a couple lists, and they're both in the 200 range. That's how much I've cleaned it up. So spam compliance is your friend. I don't know if that answers your question, but don't feel like you're missing out. If they ain't opening your emails, you don't have them.
Well, let me take a stab at this. I remember in the old days, we used to get like lists, and we used to send direct mail to the lists. And then as it got into email, we got email lists, and we'd send emails to those lists. But in the modern world, especially with the new rules, you just can't do that. You're basically, your email will get blocked and put into a spam thing. And so I think that rather than sending one to many, you need to send one-to-one emails. And if you do send one-to-one emails that are relevant and authentic, that you get incredible open rates. And I'll give you an example of a tactic I did at a recent conference, my first Microsoft WPC conference. Now they call it Inspire. And I was going to go to this conference. And what I did is I imported a Twitter list into Nimble, which Nimble will import a Twitter list. And I imported a Twitter list of the top influencers of the Microsoft community from the previous year's conference. And it was about 4,000 people. And then what I did is, because Nimble will enrich those contacts, those Twitter identities, with people and company information, will automatically build the records for them. I was able to segment that 4,000 into 200 people that were targeted in and around the topics that I was going to be speaking on. And because Nimble will enrich it with people and company data, including email, I then sent a one-to-one email to the 200 people. And that's something Nimble will do. It will send an email to a person from you, templated and trackable. And that is not, you could do that. You can send a email to a person and outreach to them. And ideally, if you target that email with words that are very direct and clear of why you're reaching out and what value you want to add to that person. You don't want something from them. You want to give them something. You get incredible results. I got a 50% open rate. I scheduled 25 meetings and resulted in Microsoft signing a global reseller agreement with Nimble, all because of that process. And so I think that it needs to be much more one-to-one these days as opposed to one-to-many.
Oh my God, singing my song. Well, I was right before the webinar, chatted with Jim Duffy, and he's getting ridiculous open rates because that's how he uses Nimble. And that kind of brings us over to what I wanted to chat about, which is, whoa, that's not what I wanted. What happened to I guess that was it. I was going to do a screen share. Sorry, people. How I use Nimble, because I actually use Nimble to support my content marketing strategy and to support my direct marketing strategy. And John, my most favorite feature is the group message, which is what you just talked about. Right? And just, I don't know if I'm revealing your secrets, but sometimes I'll send a message and John's like, are you just sending this to me?
I do have to check sometimes because I have so many friends that do use Nimble, and some of them are really good at it, where it feels like you're talking to me. Are you talking to me? And
Yeah,
so,
right.
yeah.
So hey, well, you guys, I have to tell you, I did not pre-look at any of this. You people are seeing my actual Nimble group messages. And as you could see, I treat my messages very, very judiciously. And you could see I'm not sending to hundreds of people, right? I'm sending my messages. Look, I have like 15, 36. You see that? I suppose I could do more. But if you look at I use it to, let me kind of take you on a tour, right? The people who are in my list are other influencers, people who work at brands, and so on and so forth, right? So those are the people that I am connecting with. You could see, I'm trying to find one where I was here, John, here was my visit. I'm coming to Southern California. I only sent it to 3 people. I'm asking people to do things here, but you could see my open rates, 88, 89. Okay, remember, I don't have a ton of people, but you kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. I use Nimble primarily to send things if I'm traveling, to tell people that I'm going to be in the area and that I would like to see them. I'll use them to ask for, here's a quote. I'd like a quote from you, right? But I'm very, very judicious about it. I do not like to spam people. I'm trying to get to, these are my tags, and I think I have some segments. See, these are all my segments. So people who have been guests, these are all the different segments that I've created. Mine, again, are not going to be as good as yours. You guys will have very specific segments. Maybe one of my favorite segments is to do maybe an interest area, things that people are interested in. But that's not exactly what I have. I actually have different tags and different things.
Ivana, we've got a question from the audience, and they asked, do multiple opens of an email usually lead to an advancement towards a business relationship?
Well, John, you're going to have to help me answer this question because what I don't have never understood, even with Nimble, it'll give you the notification that someone has opened their email, and it occurs that they've opened it multiple times. And I'm not exactly sure technically, like, does that mean that they've actually like looked at the email, closed it, and then opened it up again? Or is it like every time the screen refreshes, that does that count as an
No,
open?
no, it's them opening it, and I think the answer to that question is that the more engaged somebody is with your content, the more likely that they are interested in the furthering the conversation. And so I use it to like I'll give an example. I do a lot of business with Microsoft and across their entire spectrum of their company. You can imagine how large it is. And I was trying to get a hold of the head of the Dynamics division and to set up a meeting. And it's interesting that Microsoft partners with Nimble. In fact, Microsoft recently transitioned over 200,000 of their Outlook Customer Manager customers to Nimble because they've anointed us as their simple CRM. And we got that done by building relationships with the key people. And one of them I'd been trying to reach out to a meeting for, and the admin asked me to send a summary of what I was interested in doing or why I wanted the meeting. And it turned out that meeting, that email was open 50 times, 50. And for a while it went dead. And then it came back up and sprouted to life, which told me it was time to reach out and to engage because there were embers there and I needed to basically put a little bit more wood on it. And so you need the ability to segment and send templated, trackable emails to be effective. And so let's talk about that in regards to your sort of your database and your CRM. It's not enough to have a market automation system or a CRM because you need sales intelligence. You need records with enriched people and company data and email and phone numbers because you need to be able to segment, and you can't segment without good data. And so that's one of the reasons why we built in sales intelligence into Nimble to enrich people and company information. And then the outreach, the ability to then take that enriched records and segment them into subgroups and then send the templated trackable emails enables you to outreach at scale. And this isn't the mark automation sort of blast them. And so if you think about this idea, mark automation is like a bomber flying over the battlefield that will soften up the field. And you can think about MailChimp like that, right? You get leads from your website, you put them in MailChimp, it drip markets them until they're lead qualified. But when they basically have opened up enough emails of your MailChimp, attended webinars, gone back to your website, shown you signals that they're interested, then you need to engage with them in a one-on-one. And you don't give sales reps market automation systems. You don't let them touch Pardot or Marketo or MailChimp. You need to give them a rifle and a map. And a rifle and a map is sales intelligence, which is the map, and sales enablement outreach templated trackable emails, which is the rifle. And when you do and use these things properly, then basically you can be more successful. And a question from the audience is, what are tags and segments? So can you show us, just scroll all the way to the top of that contact listing window and then just click into the search box at the top?
Oh, yeah.
All the way, yep, click there. All right, stop there. So if you click the search bar at the top now, that Nimble will basically allow you to build a segment. And you could build segments with those top things. Like you could basically go into like influence groups or title. And so if you stop here, what it'll do is Nimble automatically enriches your contacts with areas of influence. So you have your top focus of people that you're working with are CEOs and marketing and bloggers and advertisers. If you go to title, go back over to title and click there, the top people in your group. So basically Nimble goes and sums all your contacts and then basically prefacets them in order. So you mainly deal with these decision makers. So these are the typical people that you deal with. So go back to the top, pick CEO. Just pick it. Okay. So now you have you have a segment of CEOs. And now what you could do is you can go into location and
Oh my God, I broke it. Sorry, hang on a minute. I broke it, John.
That's okay.
There we go.
Okay, so go into sort by, over to the
Sort
right,
by,
down,
over to the right.
down.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Last contact by the team. Okay, so now you've got the people that are CEOs that you've last contacted recently, and you can actually build a filter for this. If you go back, add filter, go to the left under group, down, 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 down. Yep, add filter, and then just type in last contacted. Okay, stop. Okay, last contact by team. Click that, and you could say less than. Change days to months, and type 6. Okay, so you could do this the opposite way. You could say last contacted greater than 6 months, and you could basically build a segment, which is an outreach segment. And so basically what you're doing here is now you just built a segment, and you could select them all and tag them, or you can select them all and send a message. So a segment is a slice of your database based off the data that's in the records. And a tag is something that you apply to a record. A tag is static, and a segment is dynamic, which means that if you were to save the segment, type in CEOs contacted in the last 6 months. If you save that basically every time you turn that segment on, it dynamically will go out and find the people that fit that criteria. A tag is if you tagged all these people CEOs 6 months, that tag would become stale because the tag isn't dynamically looking at the information. But there are some times where you do want to use a tag. For instance, Ivana, you're tagged as a small business influencer in our Nimble database. Well, you are and will always be a small business influencer. And that's the difference between a tag and a segment.
Right. So you could see now this one I got to work with, right? That was this is a conference that I used to go to, and I'm probably going to adjust this because this conference is now something else. But that, like, when I meet people at a conference, that's what I do. Hey, do you have I wanted to talk about your awesome app because I just said conference. Your awesome Nimble app. That is something else that I use all day long, especially when I'm at conferences. And what I will do is I will scan their card in. And if I met them and spoke with them and had a conversation with them, they'll get a star. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like, this isn't a good example, but if you look at all my people, I have a little weird designation. Like, you see this Alan Keller guy. Alan Keller was at a conference, but you don't see the picture and you don't see a star. That means I didn't get to speak with this guy. He was on my list, but I didn't get to speak with him. So that's an opportunity for me and see, there's like no phone number, there's nothing. So this is a person that the next time I go to this conference, he's going to be at the top of my list, somebody I want to speak with. You see what I'm saying?
I think you're bringing up a good point, is that when you are at a gathering, a conference, a meeting, whatever, and you inevitably meet people and you get their contact information, you need to follow up and follow through. And that's the biggest cause of failure in business, is lack of follow up and follow through. And we don't do it because we're human. And that's why I actually invented Goldmine, because I'm human and I need a system for following up and following through. And I don't know if you remember the 619 index card, but that was the beginning of contact management, where you have a note card and you put the name and title and the note on the call, and you put a recall date, you file it based off the recall date, and then that week you pull out your cards and you make those calls.
Correct.
And so when you meet somebody at a conference, you need to scan their card with Nimble, which will automatically build a record. And then you need to make a note on what the engagement was about, and you need to put in the next step. What do you need to do? Because if you do what you say you're going to do and you follow up and follow through, you will build a gold mine in your life. And if you don't use a process in the system, you won't.
Correct. The app is outstanding. I really, really like it. I think the bad thing I have to say is that you got to watch. Conference lighting is so bad, right? So
Yeah.
I, it has an awesome scanner, but sometimes with the way lights are, that doesn't work so well. So you have to get that in there. But that is my go-to function. Is
So we have another question, Ivana. How important is it to include a click through in an email? What should my goal be when creating a click through?
a click through. You mean like you have a link in there with a call to action?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Well, one of the things is that depending on your business and your industry, those rates are all over the place. I think that Constant Contact, MailChimp, a lot of them do studies that will show you the open rates, the average open rates, and the average click through rates for an industry in your area. But I think, like John was saying, my results on click through with Nimble, I should look and see. Let's take a look. If I've included here we go, where I've included a link, you can see. Here I asked someone to share something with their community. It didn't even ask a lot of people, and like only one person did it. See what I mean?
Well,
Versus, can we talk about, I had a very, it just depends on the quality of my message, and is what I'm sharing with them and that call to action to click through, is there a good connection that they want to click through with it, right?
yeah, it really depends if your message is informational or you actually want to drive them to do something. And so I think that ideally you don't have too many calls to action.
I
Ideally, there's
typically
one main
don't,
one,
right? Because
right?
exactly, I very rarely
And
include a link.
and what you want to do in Nimble is embed the link in a piece of text. In other words, don't just put you know, here's click this link and then you put a dash and then the URL. You want to basically embed the URL in a word because Nimble will then track it that way. So if you say click this link and then you highlight the word link and you put the URL in there, then it'll track. And then beyond that, I think for me, what I like to do is I like to drive engagement. The engagement either is to schedule a meeting with us, so there might be a Calendly link. It might be attend this webinar, so it's a webinar link. It may be to watch this video, or it may be to drive them back to the website. But ultimately, Mae West, one of my idols, used to say, out of sight is out of mind, and out of mind is out of money, honey. And you need to stay top of mind with your customers in order for them, when they are thinking about your products and services, not only pick up the phone and call you, but they drag their friends with them. And it requires consistent touching. And I think that Jim Cecil, who was the master of nurture marketing back in the day, I think he used to say it was 12 or 21 touches before somebody's in a prime buying cycle. And most people give up after the first two or three. And so you need to continually nurture relationships. And think about this. Do you remember when you go to the circus and there's that guy who has got the plates on the pencils, and he's got on all his hands and his head and all that stuff? It takes more fuel to get a car to speed, a rocket to orbit, or to get the plate spinning than it does to keep it spinning. And so you need to nudge things every once in a while to keep them spinning. And with that, Ivana, why don't you take us to the calls to action? Because I think we're
Yeah,
wrapping up to the top of
actually,
the hour.
we got to wrap up, right? We've had so much fun. So, basically, everything you saw today was based on an article I wrote called How to Choose a Marketing Strategy. Um, I've got that quiz. That's the long, ugly link. When John sends you the thing, you'll be able to click on that. I'm actually, if you would like to work on a marketing strategy, you can get one-on-one help with me by scheduling some time here on 97marketingplan.com/Ivana. And what about Nimble, John?
Well, for those of you who aren't using Nimble yet, I encourage you to go try it out. There is a offer here where you can go ahead and get 30 days free if you go sign up at nimble.com offers webinar 30. And then if you do like what you see, I'm going to give you a free gift today, 40% off your first 3 months. Use the code JON40 when you put your credit card in. But beyond that, connect with us, let us know how we can help you grow, because that's why we do what we do. I think uh, the story about me meeting Mick Jagger, I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but my ENT not only is one of the best ENTs in LA, but he also was the ENT to Whitney Houston, Frank Sinatra, Bono, and Mick Jagger. And I was walking out of the doctor cubicle and I bumped into this little old man. I looked down and I said, "Shit, you're Mick Jagger and you're short and old and wrinkled." I didn't say that to him, but I thought it. And at the same time, things run through your head. I said, why does this guy get on a jet and do all these shows every year? And in that instant, I knew, because it's why I did Goldmine, why I do Nimble, because I love engaging with people. I love to help people. I love to find ways to help people grow. And that's my payment in life. And I know, Ivana, that is yours as well.
That's exactly right. When we were talking about what my offer was, and I was like, all you got to do is come and chat with me on Twitter, come and see me on Facebook. Let's engage, let's talk, call. That's what Jim Duffy did. He gave me a call. We had a nice little conversation. So it's all about meeting people and engaging with people and building relationships. And Nimble has been helping me do that for, oh my God, John, very long time.
Awesome. Ivana, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I'm going to leave you with one final question. Somebody asked, how do you map a segment for a sales trip? And we don't do everything at Nimble, and that's why we integrate with third-party apps. There's a thing called badgermapping.com, and they're building integration to Nimble. And what it is, it's a route planner for field sales. So you could actually take a segment out of Nimble. Let's say I build a segment of my key contacts in Southern California, and it'll basically let you visualize it on a map and actually build a routing of the best route to go see all those people. And so with that, say goodbye to our wonderful audience, Ivana.
Goodbye, wonderful audience. Thank you guys for being here. And if you guys have any questions about how I use Nimble or anything, please don't be shy.
And Michaela, thank you so much for managing things in the background.
You're so welcome.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.